Okay, now we're going to talk about when my empire started in the post office building on the corner of Franklin and Union. As we've talked about before in some of the things, I get my information from Sanborn maps, from phone books, from everything. And this one shows when the post office had the addition of the little spot. At one time it was 465 Franklin Street, and it was also, I believe, at 467 Franklin Street. But this is the Sanborn map where it shows it. And like we showed earlier, this is the earliest postcard dated 1911. So we know it was built there around 1909 is when the little spot as the Courtney Mattingly store. So it was a tobacco and candy store when it was first built. And then sometime back in the 30s, it became Jerry Farrell's barbershop. And then later on in the 30s, it became James Van Cherry's was the Justice of the Peace in that little spot. He also later had the insurance company, the Intercounty Bus Line office was there, and the Selective Service Board office was there. And in the 1949-50 telephone book, it has an advertisement in there for J.C. Van Cherry's Insurance. So later on in the 50s, it then became Dreyer's Barbershop. Lasted up in through the 60s. And then sometime in the 60s, it became Johnny's Barbershop. And here's an old picture of the barbershop that has Johnny's in the front, in the window. And the building next to it, if y'all remember, I think we've talked about it before, A.P. McCombs had the Record newspaper. Well, the building next to it is the Democratic Ledger. So Mr. McCombs was even helped one time when his building burnt, the office burnt. That's another story though. And then later on, after Dreyer's, it also became Hairbenders back in the 70s. And here's a little shot of it, not real bright, but the sign says Hairbenders Beauty Salon. So most of the time, it's always been a barbershop or a beauty salon in there. And then in the 1990s, Mr. Jim McMillan opened up his shop as the Duck Stops Here. I actually have the sign in the store that says the Duck Stops Here, and everybody wants it, especially the Jeannie Vincenti. She just asked me the other day about it, and she said she wanted that sign. I said, sorry, it's not for sale. But the Duck Stops Here. And then in the early 90s, it became a little whatnot shop. And then after the whatnot shop, I was looking for a spot because I used to go set up at the flea markets. I got tired of uploading and downloading. So I started my empire, if you want to call it an empire, in this little spot. And I'd heard that it was becoming open, and I walked over there and I seen Mr. Trout in there with the lady. She was just cleaning the last little bit out, and there were still 2 chairs in there. And then this is me in there just after I put a couple of things and it was all cleared out. But Mr. Trout sat in a chair over here in this corner, and I sat in a chair. Actually, there was a heater in there, and I sat on the heater, and he sat there for 90 minutes trying to talk me out of starting my business in this spot. He's the nicest old man you'd ever want to meet. Everybody called him Trouty. But here's a couple of more pictures. This is when I first opened up before anything was in there. Back when I was still in the Army, had my flat top haircut. And then here's what it looked like on the outside. Here's another picture of the outside. And just like this store and the other store that I had where I went later, it was crowded. If it rained, I probably couldn't have opened. But this was the inside of the store. So Bahoukas Collectables was the first original store, and that's where I was. And then I opened up in 1996, and in 2000, Angie Davis was up in the bigger part in the building, in the main where the main post office used to be, and then me and her switched places. And then it became Creations Hair Salon, and Angie's been there ever since. I bought the building in 2004, and she's still there. So if you have any more information about anything that you know that I haven't, that I've missed, I would really appreciate it. Any old phone books, anything that I could get more information for to add to my history museum here in the Pitcock building. So check us out at bahoukas.net, our blog. You can also check me out on our Facebook page at George Bahoukas Wagner. You can click on the photos and scroll back through all the old photos and news articles and everything that I've ever put on, dating back into the 1800s on up to current. And also we have the historic HavreDeGrace.com website that Marita did. We're now updating and adding stuff to that. Thank you very much.